This now, the women's team pursuit and the finals. The U.S. and Canada taking to the track. 4 riders, 16 laps. You can lose 1 rider along the way. Time taken on the wheel of the 3rd rider at the finish. So you have to finish with 3 to get an official time. You can drop that 4th rider, or you got to finish with 3 at the end of your 16 laps. This our first medal of the night, and a competition between the 2 North American countries, the host nation of Canada and their neighbors to the south, the United States. 1,000 meters in, and it's just 7/100ths of a second separating these 2 nations in this 16-lap race. And now Canada, once again, takes the lead for the 2nd time, bouncing back and forth here. Now up by 0.2 of a second, so with all 4 riders here. The U.S. chipping away just by a little bit here. It's just south of half a second, the lead for the Canadians. Had the lead early, gave it up to the U.S., got it back, and now have extended it. Their largest margin, 0.6 of a second. 2,000 meters now in the rear view for these 2 nations. But a very tactically sound race by the Canadians, but that lead starting to come down now somewhat. Inside of 0.2 of a second, the U.S. pacing themselves and now taking the lead as a result. The Canadians down to 3 riders here. The U.S. by 9/100ths of a second. Now by almost 0.3 of a second, still has all 4. Canada down to the minimum. They have to finish with these 3 riders, leading by over 0.6 of a second at one point. Now the U.S. has swung the pendulum all the way back in their favor, in their direction. They're down to 3 riders, and the lead down to just 7/100ths of a second. So close. That's less than the blink of an eye. The U.S. now conceding the lead to Canada by almost 0.2 of a second. They're both down to 3 riders. They're both coming down to the very end. 4/100ths of a second. Canada with their 3rd lead so far in this race. The lead changing hands on multiple occasions, and yet again, it swings back in favor of the U.S. by a slim 7/100ths of a second. No, it couldn't be any closer here, and now 0.3 of a second. The U.S. pulling on the margin, and coming up here, 3/100ths of a second at the end of that last lap for the U.S. A virtual dead heat between Canada and the United States. 1/100th of a second. The U.S. desperate to hang on here. The United States coming around here. Now by 0.2 of a second. The U.S. trying to hang on through the final laps. Time taken on the 3rd rider at the finish. Now coming up to the line at the end. And it's the United States claiming the bronze medal in 3rd place. Now we will see if the battle for gold, Italy against Australia. We are going to have 2 new gold medalists and silver medalists at the end of this race. At least on the Nations Cup circuit. Glasgow was the first stop here in Milton, Ontario, Canada. The 2nd stop, Italy and Australia. Getting up to speed here and settling in. Halfway point. And Italy just about leading from the jump here. And into the 2nd half of this race now. And the Italians leading by over a full second. Still with all 4 riders here. You try to keep all 4 as long as you can. And the Australians, as you can see, already down to 3. But for the Australians, they don't have a margin. And losing some contact there at the back. 1 rider with some daylight. And you don't like to see that. You like to see them as close and compact as possible. That makes you the most aerodynamic, cut through the wind, get the best time. But for Australia, not getting close to the best time. They're over 2 seconds back here. And now Italy has dropped a rider. So they're down to 3 as well. Each team, the minimum of 3 riders here as we come down towards the end, and it's all Italy here by 2.5 seconds, their largest margin. And at the finish, it's a demonstrative victory for the Italians. We move on to the team pursuit finals. And this is on the men's side. The race for bronze is Germany against New Zealand. And the battle for bronze is on. Going back to the women, it was the most thrilling race of the night between Canada and the U.S. for the bronze medal, with the lead changing hands on multiple occasions. So close all throughout the race. Eventually, the U.S. won the bronze, and here it's pretty close at the start as well. Just 7/100ths of a second separating these two sides. All 4 riders for both teams still intact here. Germany leading by just over half a second. Germany still looking solid. New Zealand riding well and slicing into that deficit even more now, down to 0.2 of a second. Just kind of reeling them in here, and now it's 12/100ths. So it's a steady progression through the clock and into this race. 3/100ths of a second now. New Zealand coming on. They are oh so close. Just about a virtual tie. 5/100ths of a second between these two teams. Oh, the Kiwis got close, down to just about 5/100ths before the Germans built that lead back up here. Now into the second half of this race. And the lead for Germany north of half a second now. So the Germans watch the Kiwis get to within arm's length, and now they have all of a sudden hit the ignition. And their biggest lead coming here, over 0.8 of a second. The margin continues to grow for this German side, and New Zealand has the heavy lifting ahead of them here into the final couple of laps, but trailing by 0.9 of a second. Germany basically looking to make this a wire-to-wire win. They have led since the opening lap, and now their biggest lead comes here late, over 1 full second ahead of New Zealand, continuing to put time into the Kiwis here. The way New Zealand seemed to be reeling Germany in earlier, that's the way Germany is now expanding on their margin over New Zealand here late in the race. 1.2 coming down to the final lap here in Milton, Ontario, Canada. Germany enjoying their biggest lead of the night. Almost 1.3 seconds for the Germans, and at the finish, Germany will take the bronze medal by over a second, with the Kiwis just missing out on the podium. Now time for the gold medal race. Australia taking on Italy. Working their way up to speed. These early readings in terms of the margins, they count, but they're not overall the most revealing factor about the race. Right at about half a second here, halfway through it. 2,000 meters down, 2 left to go in the 16-lap race, 4,000 meters altogether. Both teams still with all 4 of their riders. Got to finish with at least 3. Yeah, there's the difference here. So Australia leading most of the way here. And the lead back up north of half a second now. And the Aussies down to 3 riders. So they've got the minimum here. Italy still with all 4. And Italy now down to 3 as well, but they have taken the lead. As you can see, it's almost by 0.4 of a second. That's what I was talking about earlier. And be patient, but not too patient. And Australia coming on here. taking the lead by over a second. That's the biggest lead we've seen from either team so far, with exactly 1,000 meters left to go. And the Aussies, their biggest lead, over a second and a half. Each team dealing with the minimum. Can't drop any more riders, and now the Aussies have hit the jets here. Almost a 2-second lead. Going to be hard to lose that at this point. Down to the final few laps, the lead growing. They got to finish with 3, but there's a gap from that second rider to the third rider here. Disaster for the Italians here, and that's going to mean the Australians are going to ride away with this in emphatic fashion. They have all 3 riders here. The lead over 4 seconds. The Italians in here on the velodrome, and they're passing one of the Italian riders here. It's over. The Aussies are going to win the gold medal here as they are blowing apart this Italian team that has completely come apart. And they catch them, pass them, and end it. Time now for the team sprint finals. Going back to Glasgow, it was Great Britain winning the bronze, and they do it again in back-to-back Nations Cup races. Canada won silver, but they're looking for their second consecutive medal as well. 3-lap race, Canada, Great Britain. At the end of 1 lap, it is Great Britain with the lead of just inside of half a second. Second lap here, and Great Britain still on the front foot, leading by almost 0.3 of a second. Coming up on the final lap in the race for the bronze medal, it has gone over to Canada now by 9/100ths. Couldn't be any closer as they come down to the end. Final of the laps here in the race for the bottom step of the podium and the bronze medal, and it's going to be Canada who's going to take it ahead of Great Britain by just over half a second. And that'll take us to the race for the gold and the silver. Germany facing the Netherlands. Early on, it is the Netherlands by just about 1/10 of a second ahead of Germany here. At the end of lap 1, the lead grows to almost 2/10 of a second. On to the second lap, down to 2 riders for each team. Here's the Netherlands here, leading from the outset, but the lead down to just 3/100ths of a second. Coming up on the start of the final lap here, and now Germany is taking the lead for the first time by 0.3 of a second. Did Germany pace it right? Did they get it just right? Saving it for the very end. The lead growing up to almost half a second. Can they upset the Netherlands? It's going to be Germany with the win by over half a second. The Netherlands finishing in second. Germany wins the gold, the Netherlands the silver. For the last 3 medals on day 1 of this 4-day event in Milton, Ontario. It'll be Germany against the B team from Great Britain on the men's side for bronze in the men's team sprint of this Nations Cup series. Germany without a medal at either of those events. Fast flying and powerful start by both sides. Germany and Great Britain both getting up to speed quickly, and the B team from Great Britain taking the lead by over 4/10 at the first interval. At the end of the first lap, the lead holding. On to the second lap here, and the lead growing for Great Britain out to 0.7 of a second. Last lap here, and looking to make it a wire-to-wire win for a bronze medal. Lead coming down somewhat. Final quarter coming up. Can Germany close that gap all the way? And oh, they do! Yes, Germany springs the surprise at the end by just 6/100ths of a second. That's the only time they led at the very finish, as GBR just misses out by the slimmest of margins. Germany left it until the very end. So that takes us down to the final race. Gold medal race in the men's team sprint. The A team from China against the rainbow jerseys of the world champions. And such a powerhouse juggernaut of a nation in this particular discipline. The Netherlands looking for another goal. Early on, it's China. Up to a slim lead of 9/100ths, but the Netherlands going through the gears here, getting up to speed, but their deficit growing out to 0.3 of a second now at the end of the first lap. This is lap number 2. The Netherlands chipping away here. They're getting closer, coming to the end of the second lap. And the Netherlands for the first time taking the lead by over 1/10 of a second. This is the final lap of the night. The Netherlands taking aim at another gold medal in the men's team sprint, coming around that final corner. And this Dutch squad gets the goal by only 9/100ths of a second. Oh, so close. China kept in touch, but in the end, it's the Netherlands once again on the top step of the podium as the Netherlands wins the gold in the men's team sprint here tonight in Milton, Ontario. As Netherlands claims gold.